And you spoke about creativity, and I was thinking which is the precise mission of art in our lives, because art has been with us since the old times. So which is the mission of art, and why is art so near us?
Yes, you know, one of the things the United Nations is doing right now is they have a plan for what they call global Millennium Development Goals. You know, so many mosquito nets in Africa, curing of AIDS by such and such year, removing poverty, etc., etc. And what people are discovering is that you can have these goals, but they do not work till you have a convincing story. Okay, that human beings are storytellers, and what we call reality out there is the story that we have told ourselves. Therefore, art, theater, music, these are the ways we tell our story. And you know, that's why people watch soap operas, that's why we watch television, because they want to see the story. They're fascinated by stories. We've told ourselves a story that is now the projected reality. And it's time to change the story. It's time to change the narrative. And there's no more powerful way to do that than through the medium of art. And even in these places, you see where the United Nations is working on AIDS, for example, you have to start, first of all, what's the story? Okay. It's not enough to give them drugs. You know, it costs, by the way, it costs $10,000 US dollars to treat one patient in Africa with AIDS per year. 10,000 US dollars. Why? Because the drugs are sold at market prices by multinational companies, and that's how they make money. But the same drugs can be bought in Asia for $400. But that's, you see, that's part of the story. Those drugs are not good. We have to change the story. But it's not the drugs. It's also the behaviors, the facts, the exploitation of women, the trafficking of children, the violation of human rights. Once you start to tell the stories compellingly, and you say, this is what is happening in our society, then we are, you know, human beings are compassionate, loving, understanding people. That's the real function of art. And art is here to create the new mythology, the new story that we want to spark our collective imagination with, because it is in our collective imagination that the solution to whether it's AIDS, whether it's poverty, whether it's ecological disasters, or whether it's war.
It's healing in a previous level, or not?
Yes, it's healing at a much deeper level, yes. See, America's fascination with war. You have movies on First World War, on Vietnam, on Second World War, on Korea. It's crazy. It's totally the story.
Even in the future, and the Star Wars.
Star Wars, it's all about, the stories are all about violence. So that creates the collective, sparks the collective imagination. You have to change the narrative.
I always thought that humor is a high level of intelligence.
Humor is the highest level of spirituality, yes.
Oh, thank you to confirm that for me.
Highest level of
I'm glad to hear that. And why? And why?
Synchronicity is an expression of God's humor, isn't it? You know, synchronicity is the paradox of existence. If I have to explain a joke to you, then it's not a joke. But when your soul recognizes the paradox, it laughs.
Qué divertido. I'm using a lot. I'm enjoying a lot. Well, tell us something about quantum healing. That is one of your main, I think.
Yeah, a quantum in physics is the smallest indivisible unit in which waves of information and energy are either emitted or absorbed. So a quantum of light is a photon. A quantum of electricity is an electron. A quantum in consciousness is an idea, a thought. And medicine has for long recognized a phenomenon that never understood. It's called spontaneous remission. So a person has a disease and then the disease goes away. And more we recognize what is happening. It's an example of biological creativity. So quantum healing is biological creativity, a shift in consciousness and a shift in biology. Because your consciousness, which is the same thing as your soul, your spirit, it simultaneously differentiates into what we call perception, what we see out there, whether we see is threatening or nurturing, cognition, how we think, moods and emotions and feelings, biology, behavior, social interactions, personal relationships, and environment all create our everyday reality. But this everyday reality is a function of our state of consciousness. When there's a shift in consciousness, then everything changes. The environment changes, relationships change, social interaction changes, biology changes, behavior changes, perception changes, moods change, and thoughts change. It's a complex thing, but it is an example of biological creativity. So you have two people with cancer. One behaves totally predictably, dies in such and such time. The other person, for whatever reason, had a shift in their consciousness that allowed their biology to respond creatively. That's quantum healing.
Mm. And is it real that we can change our DNA?
You don't change the DNA, you change the expression of the DNA.
The expression?
Yeah. So, your DNA responds to your internal dialogue. If I threaten you with something, your DNA will stop making messenger RNA for immunomodulators. It's been done. Many experiments have been done. The DNA has almost an infinite amount of information. Most of it is unexpressed. Okay. Most of it is unexpressed. And your state of consciousness, whether you're feeling threatened or fear or love or compassion, will actually influence the behavior of the DNA. So you don't change the DNA, you change the behavior of the DNA, what it expresses.
I heard something about activating the 13 helicoids or spirals in that. I am wrong, or
well, you may be right. I don't know the technical aspects of this, but certainly, the DNA is very flexible in its response to what's happening in consciousness and what's happening in your inner world, and even your thoughts influence the behavior of your DNA, your moods, your emotions.
Thank you very much. We'll wait a minute. Ya volvemos. Hay más. Well, I brought this for you. I choose one of our spring flowers for you, and I want to give it to you and to ask you something.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you.
I want you to tell me something about this flower and about beauty. Why do we find beauty there? And what is beauty? Why is beauty so important?
Well, there's a poem by the Indian poet Tagore. He says, when I feel beauty, I know it is truth. When I feel beauty. This flower is also sunshine and rain and rainbows and earth and water and wind and the infinite void and the whole history of the universe right here. It's also spirit in manifestation. So you feel the truth when you experience beauty. There's a flower and there's the whole universe right here.
You talk something about water. Water is, life starts in the water. And nowadays in the planet, water is getting more and more, apparently, not more important, but there is something about that. Do you think it will be a problem?
Not if we use our creativity, because there's ways to harvest rainwater.